on your warm-up, because these are questions these are types of problems that I had you guys watch videos for while I was gone. So I want to go over these with you. The first one is solving by completing the square. So when you complete the square, you want to first make sure that you are in this format. So the format is where you have ax squared, and then you have your bx term, and you leave yourself a blank, equals, and so we're going to move this over. If it's positive 48 on the left, it will be minus 48 when we bring it over. And whatever you do to one side of the equation, you have to do it to both. So we're going to leave ourselves two blanks. When you complete the square, you're finding the magic number that goes in this blank. To figure out the magic number, it will always be b divided by 2, all of that squared. So the b term is always the middle number. So my b is negative 12. What happens when you square a negative number? So if it's negative, it doesn't really matter. Every time, always, when you're completing the square, you're always going to be adding here. So our middle number is 12. And like I said, it doesn't really matter that it's negative. It's going to be 12 divided by 2. What's 12 divided by 2? 6. What's 6 squared? So what we're adding to both sides is this number, plus 36 and plus 36. What you do to one side of the equation, you have to do to the other side. Once you add 36 to both sides, factoring this side is really simple. Can y'all think of two numbers that can multiply to give you 36, that can put together to give you 12? 6 and 6, right? Well, it's really easy to factor this side. It will always turn out to be something squared. And all you have to do is half the middle number. So half of negative 12 is negative 6. On the right side, we have negative 48 plus 36. What is that? What do we get? Okay. Negative 12. So this is kind of our first part of this problem. It tells us that we need to solve. So our first step in solving, we just figured out that we factored it. Okay, that's what it looks like to be factored. But now we need to solve it. So to solve it, I'll rewrite it. So you had a homework where you had to solve, and you had to solve, and it said solve using square roots. To get x by itself, we're going to have to unsquare it. So to unsquare something, you have to square root it. And anytime you take the square root, you have to do plus and minus. So this is taking the square to the other side. You have to do plus and minus. Now, sometimes I feel like it's easy to off to the side work with the square root part, because then you don't have to keep rewriting the whole problem. So I'm going to take that square root of negative 12 just over here, and I'm going to work with it. So this was another video, was simplifying square roots. So off to the side, I'm going to take the square root of negative 12 and I'm going to reduce it. Hello? Sure, no problem. Yeah, no problem. You're welcome. Bye. Jimmy, the last 10 minutes of class, you need to go front office. Yeah, last 10 minutes of class, go front office. All right, square root of 12. What we're looking for is perfect squares that can go into 12. 4, good job. 4 is a perfect square that can go into 12. So the square root of 12, and always put the negative with the perfect square. So -4 times 3. What is the square root of 2? Sorry, now you know the answer. Square root of 4 is 2, but because it's got that negative attached to it, when we bring it out, it will become 2 what? Very good. Somebody watched my video. 2i square root 3. So that's me reducing that square root. If it was if it wasn't a -12, it would be 2 square root 3. Just the I would not be there. So now I can go back to my problem. So I have x minus 6. And I don't need parentheses anymore because I just got rid of the square, is equal to plus and minus 2i square root 3. So you move the plus and minus, just scoot it over a little bit so you can put the 2i part. We are almost done, but I don't have x equals. The goal is to get x equals. That's what it means to solve. To solve, you get x equals. So I need to bring the -6 over. When I bring it over, I'm going to add 6. So x equals 6 plus or minus 2i square root 3. That is my answer. There's nothing else I can do with that. Because it is a negative answer, remember the solutions, the x-intercepts is where the graph crosses the x-axis. This has an imaginary solution. So does it cross the x-axis? No, it does not cross the x-axis. So we have no real solutions because it's imaginary. So that is a quick recap of completing the square. The second question is quadratic formula. So ideally, we learn quadratic formula in Algebra 1, and everybody memorizes this silly little song, and you know how to do quadratic formula. So did anybody memorize the quadratic formula in Algebra 1? That's what I thought. I didn't really think so. So that was usually an extremely common thing, is that I see kids and they already know the song. I didn't think that you guys would. And you don't have to memorize it because I'm going to give you the formula, but just like summer difference of cubes, you have to know how to use it. And so who watched that crazy video? Anybody else besides? No? Yeah, that it was crazy. Hello? Hey. Okay, that's a good idea. She did. I said yes, thank you. It's okay. She brought it. No worries. Yeah, for sure. All right, love you. Bye. Sorry, we have one kid that's sick, and today was her first day back. We have another one that's sick and is at the doctor right now. We have another one that's sick, and he's going to leave school early to come pick me up because we only have one car and I have to take him to the doctor. So sorry. I didn't know if that was something emergency. It wasn't an emergency. So quadratic formula. You don't have to memorize it, but you do have to know how to use it. So the quadratic formula is negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4 times a times c all over 2a. It starts out with negative b. Negative b means opposite of whatever b is. So if b is positive, it's negative in the formula right there. If it's negative, it becomes positive in the formula right there. The other b, honestly, it doesn't really matter because when you square something, that first term is always positive. I can tell you that a lot of students make huge mistakes when they try and use their calculator because if you don't put parentheses and you plug in a negative right here, it's going to say negative, and then you start making mistakes. You have to know that a negative times a negative is a positive. So do not mess up right here. This first term will always turn out to be a positive term. All right, let's use it. So first step when you're doing quadratic formula is whatever you have needs to be set equal to 0. For this one, it was a little bit different. When you complete the square, you need to bring over your constant and then make space. Here, not the case. You need A, B, and C all on the left side. So we need to fix that first. We need to add 5. So we get x squared plus 3x plus 5 is equal to 0. Those of you that are going to make better grades on your quiz, you're going to take the time to write down what is A, what is B, what is C. We have A, B, and C right here. The very first term, if nothing is there, it's a 1. So A is 1, B is 3, C is 5. So once I identify what A, B, and C are, I can plug those into the formula. So it says negative b. Okay, negative b is negative 3. Plus or minus the square root of b squared, so 3 squared minus 4 times 1 times 5. Don't try and do it all in your head. You can write it out. Times 2, or sorry, all over 2 times 1. And I forgot to mention that this is x equals. So what we're solving for is x. Every time. Quadratics, what are you looking for? You're looking for the x's. What does x equal? Questions with how I filled in the formula? Yes, no, maybe so. I also want to point out with the video. So I think this is when I got my call. So the video was ridiculous. If you didn't get a chance to watch it, I don't know that you necessarily have to watch it because going over one example, I feel like is probably enough to be able to fill in the notes. It's just a formula and here's how you use it. But that is a great resource. Math by Fives, he has math content all the way up through college algebra classes. Sorry, college math classes. So he's got some really great content. What I like about him, yes, he's crazy, but I really, really like his videos. Through COVID, did anybody watch math videos because you had no idea what you were doing? Okay. The quality of math videos out there. Is it any good? No. Math videos suck. They're typically boring. They're way longer than they need to be. And a lot of times it's this really easy concept that the only videos you can find are like super complex. And so you're like, I just want to know how to do this problem, right? Like it's way more complex than it needs to be. This guy's videos, I feel like are really short. They're to the point. It's not a lot of extra stuff. So again, he has tons of stuff for Algebra 2. If you're struggling with Algebra 2 for anything, you can type in anything. Read the title of whatever it is that we're doing. And you have to type in Math by Fives because that's the guy's name. So Math by Fives, completing the square, you'll find a video. Math by Fives, quadratic formula, you'll find a video. Math by Fives, factoring, you'll find multiple videos because there will be videos about when A is equal to 1, when A is not equal to 1. He does different methods than I do. So I think he shows things other than factor by grouping. You can use that, whatever you do to get the right answer. So again, he is a great resource, not hurt my feelings because you need extra resources. So if you need to get extra help, you can always watch his videos. They're good. They're good math videos. Crazy, but sometimes we remember things that are crazy. We're not done yet. We filled everything in. Now we need to evaluate. So we're going to do step by step. Obviously, it's going to be over just 2 because 2 times 1. But the main part is evaluating the square root. So what we end up with is 3 squared. So that becomes 9. And then what's 4 times 5? 20. So we end up with 3 plus or minus, sorry, negative 3 plus or minus square root of 9 minus 20 all over 2. And I can tell you again, the people that are going to make better grades are the ones that write it out over and over again until they evaluate it. Then we end up with 9 minus 20. What's 9 minus 20? I can't hear you. That's the only thing. The air turned on. So negative 11. Can negative 11 be reduced as a square root? There has to be a perfect square that goes into it. And so sometimes maybe on your quiz or your test, if you need to, just get yourself a quick list of perfect squares because you use them sometimes. So remember, it's 1 times 1, and then 2 times 2, 3 times 3. So you get 4 and 9 and 16, 25, 36, 49. Those are perfect squares. So you're checking to see if the things underneath the square root, is it divisible by one of those perfect squares? Well, 11 is not. But we don't want to leave a square root of a negative number. And so this is kind of like off to the side. Square root of negative 11. To pull out that negative, what is the square root of a negative number? I. So it becomes I square root positive 11. So we'll pull that out and we'll make sure it's an I. Okay, so I'm going to write it again. Negative 3 plus or minus. And then I pulled the I out so that the 11 is positive all over 2. You can stop here and you can box your answer because I'm cool with that. However, sometimes you'll see it split up. So I just want to show it to you so that you know what it looks like. Thank you. That way, if it's a multiple choice question and it's split, you know why, or like you can match your answers. Another way to do this is to split it up because you've got 2 parts. You have this part right here that has the negative 3, and then you have the I square root 11. So we're going to split that up and it will look like this. Negative 3 over 2 plus or minus I square root 11 over 2. So either way, I'm okay with you writing it. And the reason why sometimes it's split is because if this was like a 4 and a 6, 6I, you could reduce it further, but here you can't. So either one of these is okay. And so today I'm going to show you an answer scramble. When I show it to you, I write it both ways. So I don't care how you put your answers. You just need to know how to identify them. You need to know they can be written like that. So that is your warm-up. You're going to grade your warm-up, and don't get up to turn it in right now because I want to show you one more thing. If you genuinely tried those problems, and even if you got them both wrong, if you tried both problems, you can give yourself 5 points apiece, so you could get a 90. If you sat there and waited until I just went over them, you need to give yourself an 80. If you got them right, give yourself 100. So that is the warm-up. You're going to grade it. You'll turn it in, but in a second, not right this second. The next thing I want to do is go over evaluating I. So I want you to pick up your purple worksheet, the practice worksheet, the purple worksheet. What is question? I think it's 5. What's question 5? Y'all know how to do that? No. No. Nobody knows how to do that. But guess what? It's really easy. It's really, really easy. So I feel like that in the top right corner of your practice worksheet, you could probably draw this tiny little diagram, and we're just gonna write some stuff on the outside. So jot that down, and then we're gonna write some stuff on the outside. You don't need a whole lot of room, but I do wanna make sure that you get this written down. Just find a spot that you can jot this down. So we're going to use this little chart to help us evaluate those things. There's a couple questions on your practice worksheet. I think it's square root of, I don't know, 15, or sorry, I to the 15th power, I to the 21st power, maybe I to the 46th power. You've got a couple of them that you've got to figure out. And there's not really any solving or anything. It's just knowing what I is. So we'll start with I to the first power. I to the first power is just I to the first power. So it is just I. So those of you that watched my videos, I talked about that I squared is something. What is I squared? Close. -1. Very close. So I squared is negative, not negative, okay. -1. I squared is -1. I to the third power. Well, I to the third power is the same thing as I to the second power times I to the first power. Do you agree? That would make I to the third power. Well, we know what I to the second power is. It is -1. And we know what I to the first power is. It's just I. So I to the third power is just -I. Anybody have an idea of what I to the fourth power might be? 1. The reason why is I to the fourth power is the same thing as I squared times I squared. I squared is -1. -1 times -1 is +1. So as you keep going, things will behave like this in a cycle over and over and over again. So I to the first power is I. I to the second power is -1. I to the third power, -I, and then I to the fourth power is 1. So you can keep going around this circle however many times you need to until you get to whatever the exponent is. So the first one, is it I to the 15th power? Okay, so I'm going to show you how to do this. So we're going to start with 1. So we're looking at the exponents. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. So I to the 15th power is going to behave like I to the third power. The answer is -I. So all you do is count all the way around. So now that you know that I to the 15th power is right here, you can start with 15 and you can keep counting until you get to 21, which I think is the next one. Wherever you land for 21, start there and you can count until you get to whatever the next one is, 46 or whatever. There is a question on your quiz and it is this. All you have to know is how to create this little circle chart and count. It's not a hard problem, but you can't do it in the calculator. And also, things to note, your quiz, you will only have a little black calculator, not a fancy schmancy one. So keep that in mind. I created for you an answer scramble. This is an answer scramble. Hold on, I'm gonna make it bigger. This is an answer scramble for the practice worksheet. So you'll notice that down here at the bottom, I don't care which format you put them in. I'm just showing you that they could be written either way. So this is an answer scramble. You guys can take a picture of it if you want. You can mark the answers off on your phone as you find them. A lot of times, if you find something that looks like it could be your answer, but that's not what you have, maybe you can figure out the steps to get there. This can maybe help you. Purple worksheet. So today, and I'll put this back up if I need to, if somebody doesn't have a phone to take a picture. Today, what you guys are working on, we already did the warm up. You're going to turn it in. Don't forget to turn it in. You're working on the practice worksheet. You can use your notes. You can rewatch any videos. The last 15 minutes, we're going to grade these assignments, and we have a quiz next class. So if you're not finished with these assignments, that's where I would probably start. The practice worksheet isn't due today. The homeworks are. So do the homeworks first, and then do the practice worksheet if you're done with the homeworks. Any questions over what we're doing today?